Welcome to the Falcons Fanatic Podcast, your dirty birds every weekend. Welcome back to the Falcons Fanatic Podcast. I'm your host as always, Lucky Roberts, on a very sad Sunday. I think you understand why I'm choosing to release this one a little late. I'm a little frustrated. Had to get a little bit of a debrief because the Falcons lost 7-9 to the Panthers in Carolina in what was just it was a wet game. It's very reminiscent to the Jets game a couple weeks ago, which the Falcons did actually end up winning. This one, the Panthers got the best of the Falcons, but I wouldn't say the best of the Falcons is what was delivered on this matchup. It was just a poor performance all the way down. The offense really fell apart without that right side of the offensive line. No Lindstrom, no McGarry. Neither of the running backs could get anything going. Algier more than Robinson. He had 45. Bijan held to only 11 yards. Really disappointing. It's a rainy day. You're going to be focusing on the ground, and we had nothing to run behind. And it just shows, Arthur Smith isn't this great run designer. We just have a really strong offensive line. I think we've known this for a couple of weeks now, where we've missing these guys and we can't get anything on offense. And I think we were finally able to understand Arthur Smith needs to be gone. And I think that is something that Blank is going to have to realize sooner rather than later, because this team is too good to be ruined by two men. They're in cahoots together. Desmond Ridder pissing away this game, rolling out to his left. The Falcons are up 7-6, and 7 minutes left. Falcons are on the 20 of Carolina. If they score a touchdown here, the game is basically over. It's put out of reach for the Panthers, who had been able to do nothing on offense that entire game. Ridder rolls to his left. There's nothing open, but it's second down. Instead of, doing the smart thing, A, putting your head down, getting 2 yards, B, throwing it out of bounds, he decides, I'm going to go for option C and see Kyle Pitts, who's already covered by one man in front of him. I'm going to throw it a little behind him so he can track back and get it. But I throw it a little behind him. Kyle Pitts is not moving that direction, and it goes straight into the safety's arms, and the Panthers get a huge turnover. And, Falcons never got to touch the ball after that. It's a 7-minute long drive down the entirety of the field where the Panthers kicked the game-winning field goal in the dying second, and the Falcons lose. They're now 6-8 on the season. And, you look at these other games, Buccaneers took care of their game. The Saints took care of the game. And if you're looking at all three of the games, the Buccaneers were playing the Packers. I'm not entirely sure who the Saints were playing, but they weren't playing anybody, worse than the Panthers. The Panthers are the worst team in the league. And the Falcons seem to have the shoe-in for the game that was going to, be a schedule win. Nope. The Falcons lose, and, it's knocking them basically out of contention in this NFC South division and for the playoffs. We've the last 2 weeks against the Buccaneers and the Panthers, we've pissed away golden opportunities to win and pissed away our 3-0 division win series, and now we're looking at 3-2 in the division, and that's not going to give us any tiebreakers. And what we need now is tiebreakers. We need the Buccaneers to poop the bed. We need the Falcons to win the next 3 games, which is going to be tough, and we need the Saints to drop 1. We need Buccaneers to drop 2, Saints to drop 1, Falcons to win all 3. If we want a hope of making the playoffs and not want a hope of being a successful winning franchise for the first time in 7 years. It's despicable. I can't believe I'm sat through 6 years of my life of this. It's I can't believe it. It's 7-9, 7-9, 4-12, 7-10, 7-10, and now 6-8. It's horrible. And I cannot imagine myself sitting down for another one after this one with Arthur Smith retaining as the head coach, because he obviously doesn't know what he's doing there, and he obviously should not be the head coach of the Falcons. And if Arthur Blank doesn't see that, he's got an issue too, and we've got an issue with Arthur Blank, because at the end of the day, this team has had 2 successful years in the last 11, and that's not good enough. Anyway, let's talk about some of the players in this one other than Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder, it's a rainy game. He was just not doing what he needed to do at 152 yards. Tyler Algier, like I was telling you earlier, he had 14 carries, 45. He was the most effective runner here, and all he was doing was getting 3 yards by putting his head down and walking through some guys. Bijan couldn't get anything going. Cordero Patterson got even less going. He had a touchdown in this one, but -2 yards rushing. He got stopped in the backfield every single other run. And I guess they're counting it as a pass, his sort of jet sweep across for the touchdown. So it wasn't even a run. He had -2 yards, and he wasn't a factor in this one. And Desmond Ridder with his legs wasn't a factor in this one. 31 rushes for 52 yards. That's less than a yard per carry for a team that's supposed to be a running football team in a game where you're supposed to be running the football. We had one play other than the touchdown, which I mean, that's just Arthur Smith trickery. It's gonna win. It's gonna work eventually. It's gonna hit 1 out of 10 times because that's just football. But usually it doesn't in the red zone. Jonnu Smith, the one play, Desmond Ridder, a dart to Jonnu Smith, who scampers for 56 yards and are just about down to the 2-yard line, setting him up for that score. Other than that, there was nothing. Kyle Pitts, 3 for 37. Why is he not in this game more? Jonnu Smith is getting more action than he is. Drake London, 2 for 24. He had 2 catches there in the fourth on that drive that we were on the 20-yard line. And if we kick a field goal there, look who's winning the football game. If we kick a field down, look who's winning this football game. So I don't want to say that, but I was thinking it at the time. I was like, let's take the points here. I don't care if it's raining. I know Younghoe Koo is pissed off from last week after missing those 2 field goals, and if he made those 2, we would have won that game. I know he's pissed off from that. If he kicks another field goal here, he's going to drill it. That's just who he is. All right? And I know it, and I knew he would have drilled it. But instead, we go for it, and it's a 4th and 3. It's a horrible handoff to Bijan, blown up all the way, and it just play your cards right, man. Jeez, take the points when you can take them in a game where it's raining, it's pouring. You're going to need to take the points when you can get them. And that's what the Panthers did, and that's why they won this football game. Drake London, 24 yards, 2 catches. And then all these other catches, Bijan only got 1. Tyler Algier got 1. Daryl Hodge with 1. 12 receptions for 152. Better than the running game, but still not good. Still not good. And this defense, man, is so impressive to see them cover up these holes of this offense. I can't believe we're wasting this season from them because they're going to get older and it's going to be harder to replace that production. But, I'm loving what I'm seeing from players like Jesse Bates, who led the team in tackles today with 10. Nate Landman had a couple of huge plays in pass defense, a couple of huge plays with tackles as well. You've got people emerging like Clark Phillips and DeMarco Helms in the backfield, in the back end. Calais Campbell had a huge sack in this one. Zach Harrison with a sack. He finally gets on the board with 1. Calais Campbell also had a huge stop on a 4th down early on in this game where he just bench presses the guard right into the running path of the running back. Chuba Hubbard has to readjust, and he's readjusts right into the path of a Falcons player. I think it was Nate Landman, and they stop him on 4th down, and that was all because of Calais Campbell. And he had a sack in this one, and he was impressive. And A.J. Terrell locking it up. Not his best game, but Adam Thielen with 43 yards, you're going to take that, but it's Adam Thielen, right? But you're going to take that. It was a all-around Panthers passing victory that won them this, and it was on the back of Chuba Hubbard. And the Falcons defense, you can't ask for more than this. You can't ask for more than holding them to 3 field goals. You can't. You need to see more from this offense. You need to be given a little more hope. This defense played their butt off today. Okuda as well. And it's just, every single game it's this. We're talking about it in the Bucs game. We're talking about it in the Jets game. And we win the Jets game. But we're talking about it in the Jets game. And And we're talking about it in the Saints game. The Falcons don't win unless it's the plays of Jesse Bates. And Arthur Smith is an offensive coach. He has nothing to do with this defensive resurgence. He has nothing to do with the skill of this defense. It's depressing. I thought Bryce Young was better than his first game of the season where he threw 2 picks to, the guy I've just been talking about, Jesse Bates. But even still, he's a headless chicken as much as Desmond Ridder is. This time he doesn't have a pick, and so that's why they're probably winning this football game. And he has, a better instincts running without a head than Desmond Ridder does. But even still, he's a headless chicken, and you don't want a headless chicken running your football team. But at the end of the day, they got what they needed to win that game. And I think it was Chuba Hubbard who was the one that got them there. But this defense, I know they have Frankie Louvu, J.C. Horn, Derek Brown. They've got some great players, Brian Burns as well. But they're 2-12 for a reason is what I'm trying to say. The Falcons, their defense isn't anything special, and the Falcons have done better against better defenses, and I don't think they've done worse against worse. And this is just the most depressing thing, because when you come into a season with expectations, when you go up 2-0 with 2 wins on the board earlier on in the season, you have hope. And this Falcons fan base knows about hope, and they know about it just getting ripped away from you, and they know about despair, and it just continues to be shit on their doorstep, and it continues to just be right there, and for no reason. And it's really frustrating because I care, and I know these fans care. You can see it all over Twitter. You can see it all over anything with any fan. You can just hear it in their voice, and you can hear about the way they talk, and they want it. But it's so hard to love a team when it just does not give anything for you to love. It's really hard. You can love the defense, but at the end of the day, that's not gonna. If you don't win, there's nothing to latch on to. And this team has been not only bad, but they've been mediocre, and they've shown no hope of progression, and then no hope of getting worse and then getting better. They're just the Falcons, and they're just 7-10, and that's who we are, and that's our identity as a franchise. And that's how it goes, right? I don't know. It's another reason why I didn't want to come on. I wanted to wait was to not only settle my nerves a little bit, get myself a little acquainted with the fact that we lost this football game. This is the most frustrating loss of this season, and this is the most frustrating loss in a while. In a slew of frustrating losses, this is the worst of them all. And it only gets worse. This team gets worse as the season goes on. Defense gets better. Offense goes from bad to worse. And, it's hard to keep rooting for them. But, we're lucky we got 3 more games left in this season. Maybe they turn it around, but at this point, at least now all the expectations are gone. We know Arthur Smith isn't long for this world. We know Desmond Ridder isn't long for this world. And we can be happy with, there's going to be a shakeup next season as it's needed. And this team does have talent, and we've shown that. And we have more talent than we've had in past seasons. And hopefully, this season for us to make the playoffs was put on a silver platter. Sometimes, that's not even enough. And it wasn't. And I know I'm writing the obituary now, but I think that's valid. And that's just how it is going to go. But at the end of the day, it's just tough to talk about. I don't want to talk about this game for 20 minutes, and I will pull that out of my backside, but it's just frustrating to see. But some of the benefits gotten from this game is, the Falcons now know what they've got, and they know what they're going to look for in the future. And we're going to get a better first-round pick. And if we continue to lose, and if you look at our schedule coming up against Indianapolis, Chicago, New Orleans, I don't trust this team to beat Indianapolis, even if it's at home where we've been better. I don't trust this team to beat Indianapolis on Christmas Eve. I don't trust this team to even go to Chicago and win. I think that's our easiest game left on the schedule, but I don't trust this team to do that. And I definitely don't trust this team in New Orleans to beat the Saints. But, that one we need to win. We need to root for a win anyway, anyhow. But, and barring some sort of recovery, this team is going to be another losing season. And that's how it goes. And I'm sure I'll have plenty of time in those next ensuing games to talk about that. But, we're just not utilizing our weapons. And we have tons of weapons. We have a great offensive line. Our defensive line it's no longer the worst in the NFL. It's now a mediocre defensive line, especially, when we've got our defensive tackles in there on Yamada and Jarrett. We're a good defensive line, I think, with Calais Campbell coming off the edge, Ebiketie coming off the edge, not Taquan Graham. But, other players, Zach Harrison's going to develop, Lorenzo Carter, and, a player I think we were missing in this one was a player who was really missing this one was Bijan. And, you can say Drake Leonard as well, who had coming off a great game that he had against the Buccaneers. And another player, Kyle Pitts. I think we forgot about him for a couple of years now. And it's given in the hands of Desmond Ridder, and he giving it in the hands of Tyler Algier. And I love Tyler. And, he's a great player. He's a solid player. He's a good player. Good running back. And we just put it in our worst players' hands is the thing. And we expect the result of our good players when we don't use them. And this is the result that you get because of that is 7-9 loss to the Panthers in Carolina. So that's going to do it for me talking about the Falcons game. Just a really disappointing one. I hope this team, Bud Dupree, hopefully he is back. He was another player we were missing, of the players who didn't play. He's one we were actually missing off the edge. But, I'll be right back with you guys Christmas Eve. Colts versus the Falcons, in Atlanta. So hopefully maybe we could have a nice little Christmas present of a win. But who knows? And then we've got Chicago, New Orleans end the season. And, that'll be it. It'll be all draft type and quarterback examinations, I'm sure. So before we go on to the Indianapolis game next week, I will do a quick, recap of the other scores around the league, and then we'll be there. So I'll be right back in a sec. Oh, the other scores around the league. Obviously there is a very high score against the Raiders-Chargers. Scoregami, and the Vikings-Bengals on Saturday, but Steelers, Colts, Broncos, Lions as well. But I'm going to be sticking to the Sunday games for this slate, and I'm going to be talking about, firstly, the Bears and the Browns. And this is another reason, I don't really trust the Falcons to win, coming into Chicago, is the Bears stuck in this one against the Browns. And, it was 2017, a tough win for the Browns, and they are 9-5, surely a shoe-in to make the playoffs now. But, it's a tough one. It was a hard-fought game, and they played it out, and they played it, and they won. But, the Bears are a tough team, and it's going to be hard for the Falcons to beat them even still. And, looking at it now, Falcons are only one game better than them in the record-wise. So that's how it goes. Buccaneers beat the Packers. Putting the nail in the Packers' coffin almost, 34-20, putting the nail in the Falcons' season as well. A great performance from Baker Mayfield. I think he had almost like a perfect passer rating in this one, and he played up to his caliber. And when there's a secondary that's not as good as the Falcons, this shows what he can do. And he played really well. The Dolphins demolished the Jets. You can see 30-0. You can see Aaron Rodgers just sulking, him and Sauce Gardner together on the sidelines about their team and how this season really played out for them. And I'm currently feeling the same way. It was, their offense is just as bad as the Falcons. They put up 0 against the Dolphins. The Dolphins' offense is obviously good. They put up 30, as they always will, at least. And against even like a great defense like the Jets, they put up 30. And not even close of a game there. The Saints beat the Giants Giants are on a great team. I was talking earlier, I didn't really know who Saints were playing. Well, they were playing the Giants. They win 24-6. I guess they're going to win that game. It's a pretty easy one for them there. Giants down to their fifth-string quarterback in Tommy DeVito, I guess. And the Saints are able to make good work of them. They only put up 6 against the Saints. Saints put up 24, and they're now 7-7, and fighting to lead the division, where the Falcons are not. But we have a chance to ruin theirs Week 18, and I'm looking forward to that. The Texans beat the Titans 19-16. AFC South matchup there between two would have been between two rookie quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud and Will Levis, but it was not to be. The Texans moved to 8-6 nonetheless, and once again they're looking pretty good for a spot in the playoffs, but who knows how it's going to develop for them down the stretch. Titans 5-9 now. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the offseason, because they do have some players, and they have Derrick Henry, who's getting older and older, and Will Levis has shown some impressiveness, but it's going to have to, I guess we're going to have to see how it shakes out in the offseason. Next, we have the Chiefs versus the Patriots. Patriots, one of the worst teams in the league, and they're going to be really happy with the Panthers taking one off against the Falcons today. But the Chiefs win pretty dominant fashion, 27-17. Not as dominant as you would have liked it if you're a Chiefs fan, coming off of a couple of tough losses. But they moved to 9-5, and they dispose of the Patriots pretty well there. The 49ers hang 45 on the Cardinals. Cardinals hang 30 of their own, but it's not enough. 49ers offense looks almost unstoppable at this current moment. There's looking like McCaffrey MVP buzz, Brock Purdy MVP buzz. They're a real tough team, probably the deepest team in the NFL at this current moment, and they showed it there against the Cardinals, who aren't particularly good, but with Kyler Murray, they have some offense that you need to worry about, and they did put up some points, but they could not stop this high-flying 49ers offense. And so the final two games for you here, the Commanders versus the Rams. Rams win. They are now better than the Falcons record-wise on the season, and talking to my friend, who's a big Rams fan, I mean, that's tough, eh? Going into this season, the Falcons were looking to be 9-win team, 10-win team, and now we've fallen, and the Rams were looking like a 4-win team, and now they're at 7-7 at 500 with a little bit of hope. And I know they're playing the Commanders. You expect them to beat the Commanders, but you know what team didn't? It was the Falcons. So 28-20 was that one, and they win. And finally, what was supposed to be the best game of the day, Cowboys versus the Bills. The Bills, winning this one from the get-go, not even close. The Bills beat the Cowboys in a game they really needed. A couple of nice wins from the Bills back-to-back, and it's a great win for them against the Cowboys. And the Cowboys really screwed the pooch with their seeding in the NFC playoffs with that chance to get the 1 seed over the Eagles after they've dropped a couple here. And so Bills, in a game they really needed, really showed up 31, and their defense stepped up as well. But that's going to do it for today. I always say, I hope next week is better, but I don't know if it will be. I'm just hoping everybody's happy in this Christmas holiday season, and hopefully we'll have something to be cheer about. So thanks for listening. As always, you can check out my Twitter if you want to. I'll be posting during the games on that. I'll be active on that. And happy holidays. Everybody enjoy this time with family, and I'll be back with you Christmas Eve. So thanks for listening, and thanks.